Hello again, everyone. I got one of these AMYboard synths or synth boards the other day. I've used it a bit. I've done some videos on it, a few videos of my first tryout with it, and I thought I'd have a go at some coding at the weekend. I can write a bit of code in C and C++. But when I was looking at the online interface for the AMYboard, I found a very interesting thing that there was an option to generate code and using AI. I was very skeptical about this, but I tried it out and it seemed to work. So I mucked about and wrote a few lines of code for this and got it to do some bits, but then I went on with trying the AI stuff out. So I'll try and show what I was doing with that. At first, I will do it using the online interface. So won't be connected to the AMYboard here, but then later on I'll show it like transferring the code to the AMYboard. I'm only showing you it in the online interface because it's just a bit easier to show it and a bit quicker to show it. So here goes anyway. So I'll show you the process. So I'm on the AMYboard page here and it has the option for try it online. So I'll go and click on that. So and then you're given this page. I'll just minimize this window down in the corner. So I've already got it set up as the simulator. If you've got the board connected or you've used a board before, it will give you options to use a simulator or the board, but I'll keep it on the simulator at the moment. So if I click on that, this is a patch that's already loaded up. So I'll just go and stop that. I'll go to code. And there's a stop button down there. So the code in this window, I'm going to clear this window now so you can look at starting from scratch. The code in this window is previous stuff I've automatically generated using AI. So I'll clear the window first because it's best. I think you've got an option for modifying code in the automatic code generator, but I'm going to try and start from scratch and get it to make something. So I'll just clear this. Right, so when you start, you should just have the sketch.py at the start and number 1 there for line 1 of your code. And then there's an option up here, if you can just see it, help create your sketch by describing it, and it's an alpha version. And I think that's like a effectively an AI code generator. So we'll just have a look at that. So at the start here, you can type in text to try and get it to generate some code, and there's also an option for let others see the prompt and result, which I think is probably good to leave on for the community in some cases. So I'll just have a go at that. I'll just go and put a prompt in here, then it takes a little while for it to generate the code. So right, I've put a prompt in here. I don't know if it'll be too complicated. Like I said, I have tried this with some other prompts and it seems to work, but this is a totally new one. So I've put create a sequenced techno drum pattern with a sequenced bass and lead patch and a non-sequenced lead patch on MIDI channel 3, and that's so I can play it from, if you look down in the right hand corner, on the, hopefully on the Arturia key step. And then I've put synchronize the sequences to an external MIDI clock, and I will say something about that later on because it seems to work in the when you've got this the key step connected up in the online simulator, but then you have to add some extra lines of code to make it work on the board. That might be something I'm doing wrong though. So I'll do create the sketch, then we have to wait a while, and then hopefully we should end up with some code appearing. So I'll just go to create the sketch here and click on it, and you should get creating sketch. May take a couple of minutes, so we'll see what happens in a minute. Right, so after waiting a while, the results, like the code results, are shown here in the code screen. So I'll just try and show you that. Oh, one thing to mention, before I show what this code does, is the setup I've got just for the simulator. So at the moment I've got the key step connected via the USB connection into the into my laptop, and that's sort of detected on the online simulator interface. So the patch I did had a free running synth on channel 3, so I've got the key step set to channel 3, so I should be able to play something. So that's the basic patch. It's set up for channel 3, which it isn't set up to be sequenced, so I should be able to play that over the top of anything else. So you can, in the code, after you've got the code generated, you can change the patches that are in there. So I'll just minimize that a bit more. Another important thing just to mention quickly is when I was trying to use this with the hardware board, sometimes when it resyncs with the hardware board, you lose the code that's in the window. You can reload that, and it is still on the hardware board after you've uploaded it to it, but it's a good idea if you want to keep your prompt to save that and save the code in a text file before going on to do anything else with it. So we'll have a go and see what this sounds like in a minute, but I'll just show you what code's been generated. Just minimize that window a bit more. You'll also notice down here it actually has a screen, and some CV inputs and an encoder knob on the interface. I'm not using an encoder on here or a screen at the moment, but I've found that even though when you write to the board it writes these values, the board seems to work okay even if it's got code for the screen, and that it just obviously doesn't display it to the screen because there isn't one. So that seems to be okay so far with that. So I'll just show you the code quickly that's been generated. Hopefully you can see it. I'll try and increase the window size here. So it's basically created your AMYboard sketch. It's even commented it. So it's got a description, techno drum pattern and everything sort of basically relating to the prompt I put in. And it's got some imports. The very first bit seems to be the synth setup. So here, if you look at it, you should be able to change the patches that are used. There's a patch there, there's a patch there, there's a patch there. So you should be able to change the sounds that come out. I think it's assigned Juno 6 on these two patches. Oh no, a Juno 6, then we've got a DX7 for a lead and another DX7 for a lead. Then they've got the drum patterns and various things, so you can have a look through the code. One thing I've found on the hardware, and when I do the hardware I'll show this, and I don't know if I'm doing anything wrong with it, is I had to put an extra line of code in here and a tulip import here to get my board to sync to the Arturia key step. Even though the transport controls like start and stop would work on here, it didn't seem to pick up the MIDI clock until I put an extra line of code in. Although when you're using it on the simulator, it does seem to pick it up. So I don't know what's going on there. I'll have to investigate that in the future. So we've got the code there. I'll just increase that. So at the moment, I think if I start this, nothing will happen. It may do. I don't know. No. Right. So we've got the start and stop. If you haven't got it set to sync to this, it should just start automatically, and sometimes in the hardware it starts automatically as well until you do a start and stop on your remote keyboard. But if I press play on this, hopefully we should get something out. So this is the patch or the sequence that's been created, and I think I should be able, I've got this set up to transmit on MIDI channel 3, and I should be able to play over the top, but of course it's sequencing. I've got the in this mode, this is set to ARP mode, so it'll be an ARP sequence over the top. So you can just hear that coming in there. And the transport controls seem to work. I'll just try the tempo out in a minute because sometimes that doesn't work. So we'll just start it off again. Yeah, so the tempo does work. So I'm just adjusting the tempo on the key step. So it's not a bad sequence. You can actually, I'll just minimize the window again. You can actually modify all the parameters then in code. And I generally don't like using AI stuff, but if I can modify this as a drum sequence or a bass sequence in the background, it's interesting. You can also add randomness to it. So I'll just turn this off. I think there is a library that it imports, which is, you might just see it there, random. I don't quite know what that does. I've got to investigate the code, but you can put some randomness into the sequences so they'll change over time. So I'm going to have a go with this, and later on I might use it to try and do some CV outputs to go into some of my semi-modular gear. So the hardware, and people will know this if they've got one. Let me show you that. We've got a CV in and a CV out here on 2 channels. So I'm going to have a go at that at some point, but I'll go on now to show you the process of actually getting it onto the hardware, and I'll see if I have to change the code as well, and I'll show you what to do there. So there you have it. Some AI generated code that seems to work. There's another point I wanted to make. There seems to be a limit on code you can generate. The number of times a day seems to be 10, maybe more, I'm not sure. And also about AI, I prefer to generate my own sequences, but this seems to be pretty good for generating background sequences to jam to. So now I'm going to try and connect up to hardware. So I've got I'll just make this window a bit larger. I've got the AMYboard connected into the PC at the moment, which is over there via the USB. I've got the Arturis key step connected into the AMYboard via the MIDI DIN connector, and I've got the AMYboard audio output going into the Flow 8 mixer over here. So I'll try and open up the window. So we'll go back to the try online button here and see what happens. So I'll just move this. So as I had it connected up as a simulator before, it's coming up with welcome to the AMYboard simulator. So I've done that. At the top, it seems to be detecting my sound interface as well, but if I go down here, you need to change MIDI into AMYboard and MIDI out to AMYboard, and then we need to switch to control and see what happens. So I've switched to from control. We've got the, and I think I mentioned these in a previous video, you've got to switch to simulate, reset the AMYboard and upgrade firmware. As I've got something in the AMYboard here, I'll just do pull from AMYboard, and there doesn't seem to be an option to stop this, but this should get the code currently in the AMYboard, which is another AI generated sequence. So I'm going to do that and see what happens. Right, so now it is playing this, it's automatically started this, so I'll just go to the code and see if I can stop it. So I've stopped this on the actual interface there. I'll see if I can start it via the key step. So you'll see down in the bottom right hand corner, I'll press play on this and see what happens. Right, and now we've got a tempo control as well. So the transport buttons seem to work okay. Sometimes when you initially load the code up, this starts automatically if it's running as standalone, and you have to do a play and then stop to sort of reset it, and then it works on the transport. I'll just go and see now. What I'll do is try and load up some code into this. So the previous section where I generated some AI stuff, I'm going to then put it into here and see if I can load it up into the board. So now I've copied and pasted the code from that I generated with the simulator earlier on into this window, and I'll try and upload it to the AMYboard, so we'll see what happens. So it's got an option here, you'll see write sketch and knobs to the AMYboard. I think as well as your code, here it'll append a load of values at the bottom, but I don't think you need to be concerned with that if you haven't got any knobs or buttons or things extra connected to this. And I think you can remove that and reload the code later on into the editor. So we'll try and write the things and see what happens. So here goes. So it should have done that. Then it says pull from AMYboard again, and I think with the this is why I said save the code before. When you pull it back from the AMYboard, sometimes it seems to delete the code in this window, even though it's on the board. So I've done this at the moment. It should be sequenced to the external MIDI clock here, but like I said before, there's an extra line of code you have to add, so I'll show that in a minute. So I'll just go from this, and then if we go back to the code here, you can see it's sort of disappeared, but I'll see if I can start it on here. So this is a new sequence here, but because it's random, it'll be different to the one you heard in the first part with the simulator, and it'll probably be different the next time I start it. So we've got that into here now. I can try it out with the transport buttons. I'll just make this window a bit bigger. Right, so pressing start on here. So the transport buttons work okay, but even though I've specified to use external MIDI in, I'll just try it. As I change the, and you can't see it on here, but as I change, I'm changing the tempo, and it isn't doing anything. So I'll stop that. So when I was working over the MIDI connection, USB MIDI from the Arturia key step into the interface here, it was working, but now I've got it on the hardware, it isn't. So I'm going to have to add a line of code and re-put my sketch or code back into this this window here with the added extra line of code, and I'll go on and do that now. So now to try and get it to sync in the actual hardware down here, I've added, if you look at the code window on the import line, I've added tulip at the end, and then I've added this line of code here. So it's tulip.external underscore MIDI underscore sync, and then true within the brackets. Now I don't know why you need to do this, but I couldn't find a command in the AMYboard API to do it. It says the code that's generated, it said it should automatically sync the AMYboard to the MIDI clock signals or pulses, but it doesn't seem to do it unless I add this line of code. So now I'll try and upload this and see if it goes all right to the AMYboard again. So we've got this again, the sketching knobs to the AMYboard, so I'll have a go. And it comes up with a pull from AMYboard bit. I'll just minimize that. So and then one thing I didn't mention before is it always seems to come back with this sort of graphical editor window, and I don't know what patch that corresponds to the altering. I think we just need to concentrate on the code that's been generated. So again, it's got rid of the code, but I'd already saved it, and you would have had to save it with that extra line as well. So we'll try this out now. Right, so that's starting it with the interface, and now I'll try and start it with the Arturia, and I'll put the clock right down just so you can see the difference at the start. I don't know if it'll pick that up until I actually change it, but let's have a go. Right, so now we can change So now I can change the tempo with this. So I'll just stop this. So basically, we've got the AMYboard can now be taken. I can unplug it from the PC, plug it in on its own, and it will start up with that patch. So I'll just try that now. I'm just going to unplug it from the PC. Hopefully this will work. So it's now plugged in on a separate power supply, so there's no PC connection here, and we'll see what happens with this. And I think as I've plugged it in again, it might have a different random sequence on, but I'm not sure. So let's have a go. It seems to have the same sequence, but you can do things with that. So I think the right sequence is that. And it seems to be overdriving a bit on some of them parts as well, but you could also alter that in code. I think you can change the respective levels and do like a sort of mixing function on the board. I'll just see what if we get channel 3 and the voice on there from the key step. So I've changed the key step to channel 3. So I don't particularly like that patch it's set up, but again, you can change that in the code. So I'll just go and show you again, just for completeness, where you change that in the code. Right, so I've had to connect up the AMYboard back to the PC again, so I can show you the voice changes. One interesting thing to note. Previously, I said I'd lost the code in the editor here, but when I plugged the AMYboard back in and pulled the code, got the prompt to pull code from AMYboard, it populated the window back with the code that I just put in. So I'll just have a look at this and see if I can just show you quickly how to change the patch. So down here, if you can still hear okay, on the patch, it's got the synth setup on this bit. So it has, I think the synth on channel 10 is the drums, so I won't change that. But then they've got the sequenced bass, which is patch 38 here. I'll probably keep that. I'll just change the free playing one. So we've got patch 133 here. I think the synth here relates to the MIDI channels they're on. So we've got send synth 3. So you can actually look at the code. I had one on channel 2, one on channel 1. I had the drums on channel 10. And I'll change this patch to something right. So I'll change that to 20, I think. and I'm not sure there's somewhere where you can change what synth it's running on as well, whether it's the Juno or DX7, but I can't see where to change that here. I'll have to look at that later on. I did see it in some other code that was generated. So I'll try and change this patch here to, I'll try 20 and see what happens. And this should be on channel 3 when I play it. So I'll write sketch to the AMYboard. So I've got that. Go back to code here. So you can see now again that we've got this empty window, but I'll try and get the code. I can't get it now. Right, so I'll just try and start it and see what happens. Right, so on channel 1 we've got this synth. On channel 2, which is a bit noisy, and on channel 3 we've now got so you can also play it with the keyboard down here, but I don't know how you change the channels there. So I'll just try it again. So the transport and the tempo is working on here. So I'll just stop that. So basically, I didn't believe it would work, but the code generation seems to do quite a good job, and it'd be quite good, and I'm probably going to use it for generating stuff to modify. Specifically, I'm going to try and do some CV generation and that for some different synths later on. But it's, yeah, it seemed, I was skeptical at first, but it seemed to do a very good job, and hopefully the video's been of use. What I'll do next is just show you some prompts. Probably won't talk over it much. Some prompts for different things. I used AI prompts and show you probably 4 examples, including this one. And yeah, if you've liked the video, please like, subscribe and support the channel. Okay, thanks very much. Oh, one thing I didn't show, even though I sort of mentioned it, is the code went in the editor window before, but if I go back sort of out of the whole interface and then go to try it online again, the first thing it comes up with is and I'll just minimize this. First thing it comes up with is the pull from AMYboard, and I think if I do that at the moment, and you have to take my word for this, the editor window is empty, but if I do this, it actually gets the code that's been downloaded to the AMYboard or uploaded to the AMYboard. Oh, there is also a thing I didn't mention. I'll try and make this a bit bigger. It seems to, and it says do not edit them, put these values in for different knobs on the interface. So if you're on the simulator one, you'll see a graphics for the LCD and the OLED display and the optical encoder. So I think this is for that, but as I'm using it headless, it seems to just ignore it anyway. And I think after this comment here, you could delete this and just save the rest and upload it later on. So I'll try and get on with the just the demo sequences now. So I'll try out some patches now, or some auto-generated sequences. One thing I forgot to say on the previous parts as well is up in the right-hand corner, top right-hand corner of the editor window, you've got a sync to show your AMYboard's current patch or sketch. So if I click on that, it should pull the scattered patch that I've loaded into here, which is the first sort of auto AI generated patch I tried to do, which is, I'll explain it a bit in a minute. So if you click on that, you get pull from AMYboard, and it should get the code hopefully from the AMYboard. So yeah, it's got it here. You can see it's appeared in the window. So the prompt I used for this and was run a synth sequence on channel 1 and synchronize it to an external MIDI clock. Again, I had to add this line of code to get it to sync from the Arturia key step. So when it was connected via the MIDI connection. So it's set up a synth, I think that's on channel 1, and it's got patch 47, and it's done some reverb and stuff on there as well. So I'll try and set it off with the Arturia key step here. And I'll just try and change the tempo. So that seems to sort of work okay. I'll try another patch out now. I'll just and obviously you can change things here if you want now. So the second patch I did was create an acid techno sequence with bass, lead and drums, and that was synchronized to an external MIDI clock. And again, I had to add this line. So it's done a description of what it's produced as well. I forgot to mention this before. So acid techno with TB303 bass, acid lead and 808 drums, and it's it has a fallback if it doesn't get a MIDI clock to 138 BPM here. I haven't uploaded this yet, so I'll just try and upload it. So I'm going to do right sketch to the AMYboard. So that's gone through here. So And I'll just try and stop it on here a minute. Right, so I've stopped that there, and on this one I seem to have to do a start and then a stop, because it started automatically, and there must be something in the code that made it do that. If I go back to the code again, just for completeness, I'll do this. We've got an empty window again, so I'll go up to the just a minute. I'll go up to the sync to show your AMYboard's current sketch, and we'll see if that works. So it's got the pull from AMYboard, and it'll have it, but it'll have it with the buttons and stuff set up. So we've got that in the bottom. And now I'll just try this out. I think you can play over some of the extra sequence patches it's got, but you get sort of dropouts and that on the mono patches. So I'll have a go and see if it starts up now. So on the key step it's set up to 100 BPM. I think the default was 138. Right, so we've got that set up now. I'll just try and see what happens on different channels. So that's just playing a single note arp over channel 1. Try channel 2, and it might crash doing this. You could just hear that on channel 2. I can't hear much on channel 1 unless I turn it off. So that's channel 3, that's channel 2. So that's its approximation of a TB303, and I think as well it does alter the portamento and the resonance in here and stuff to try and get that sound out. So it's not doing a bad job, and I quite like the sound on it. So I'll just go through now. I won't show the process anymore. I'll just show you the other patches. So now we've got the third patch or prompt I tried. So it's run a synth sequence on channel 1 and a techno drum sequence and synchronize it to an external MIDI clock. And it gives you the description down here again, what it's tried to do, which is useful. And I'll just try and start it up. Again, with this patch here, I had to do it started up automatically, and then I had to do a start and stop. Then it worked on the transport okay on the Arturia key step. So we'll just have a go and see what it sounds like. So that's 138 BPM. So that's that one. And I'll go on to the next one now. So the third patch I done, or the third or fourth, I can't remember now, was the prompts here: run a synth sequence on channel 1 and a techno drum sequence and synchronize it. So it's very similar to the previous patch, but it gave a bit of a different sequence. One thing with the generation of this one, I'll just show you, is that it actually put code for the display in there, but it doesn't seem to mind that I've uploaded to something without a display. So I'll just try that again. So that's it for that one, and I'll just try the last one out now, which I actually think is the 5th one I did. Right, so this is the final patch I did, and I think it corresponds to the very first one I showed right at the start, in the sort of first half of the video when I was using the online simulator. But it's the one, I'll just repeat it here: create a sequence techno drum pattern with a sequence bass and lead patch and a non-sequence lead patch on middle channel 3, and synchronize it all to the external MIDI clock. Like I've said over and over again, I had to add these extra lines of code here to get that to happen. So I've loaded up the patch into the AMYboard over here, and I'll try and set it up. So I've got this patch running. You can hear as well there's a bit of resonance and overdrive, and I think you can change that in the code. Another thing to mention is that this patch didn't start up automatically. It allowed me to just, it stayed quiet until I used the transport control or the play start on the key step. I don't know, I'm going to have a look at the code and see what the difference is with that. Also as well, that's it for this video. What I'm going to try and do is see if you can control levels and that. I'm going to see if you can control levels using the CVs in, and I want to try and connect this up to other gear using CVs and MIDI outs as well, and see if I can generate anything in AI doing that to assist me, and then I'll go on to modify the code. And I'll probably use this. I'm going to do some jams now. I think I'll probably use this in some jams to demonstrate some to generate some drum sequences, and probably lead and bass sequences as well. So I hope the video has been of use, and please like and subscribe if you get the chance, and thanks for watching. Okay, bye.